You know that feeling when you scroll through a sea of glossy product photos, read a handful of glowing headlines, and end up buying a digital piano that looks perfect on the page but turns out to feel flat, unresponsive, or just plain underpowered in your own living room. I've been there, and I've also seen friends waste months trying to make a cheap-look keyboard work for lessons, practice, and even casual jam sessions, only to end up wishing they'd spend a little more time researching before clicking Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this video, I'm going to walk through why the Yamaha YDP143R Arius series console might be the sweet spot for people who want a real piano feel without breaking the bank, and I'll also point out the little compromises that could make it a miss for certain players. First, let's talk about the kind of buyer who usually stands in front of a digital piano aisle feeling torn between a budget-friendly keyboard and a full-size upright that costs as much as a small car. If you're a beginner who's just starting piano lessons, you probably want something that feels close enough to an acoustic so your fingers learn the right weight and response, but you also need a unit that fits in a bedroom or apartment and won't scream for attention when you practice late at night. On the other hand, if you're a seasoned player who already owns a high-end stage piano or a real grand, you're likely looking for a portable workhorse for gigs, not a console meant to sit in a corner and double as furniture. The YDP143R lands right in the middle of that spectrum. It's built to be a serious practice instrument for students and hobbyists, yet it's not trying to replace a concert-level piano for professional performances. One of the first things I noticed when I unpacked the Arius console is how the design leans into the classic piano aesthetic. The dark rosewood finish gives it a warm, almost vintage vibe that blends nicely with a home decor that already includes wood furniture. The included bench matches the styling, so you don't have to hunt for a separate seat that fits the height and look. This matters because, unlike many portable keyboards that just sit on a tabletop, the YDP143R feels like a piece of furniture you'd actually want to leave out, which can be a deciding factor for anyone who's embarrassed to hide a cheap-looking keyboard in a closet. Now, the heart of any digital piano is its sound engine, and Yamaha calls this one the pure CF sound engine. What that means in plain English is that the piano samples are taken from Yamaha's flagship Fias Concert Grand, and they're mapped to a high-resolution playback system. In practice, when you play a soft passage, the sound comes across as mellow and resonant, and when you crank up the volume, you get that bright, articulate tone you'd expect from a real grand. I tried it both with the built-in speakers and with a pair of studio monitors, and the detail held up. The low notes have enough depth to feel grounded, and the high notes don't get shrill. For a beginner or intermediate player, this translates to a more motivating experience. The instrument sounds good enough that you actually want to sit down and play, rather than feeling like you're just tapping a synthetic beep. The action is where the YDP143R tries to mimic the feel of an acoustic. Yamaha's GHS, graded hammer standard, weighted action gives the lower octaves a heavier resistance and the higher ones a lighter touch. It's not a true graded hammer like the higher-end models, but for most students the difference is subtle enough that they can develop proper finger strength without the steep learning curve. I spent a week practicing scales and arpeggios, and the transition from low to high keys felt natural. The heavier low end encouraged me to press with a bit more weight, while the lighter highs prevented fatigue during longer sessions. If you're used to a cheap, unweighted synth, the GHS action will feel like a noticeable upgrade. If you're a seasoned pianist accustomed to a fully weighted hammer action, you might still notice a slight lack of depth in the key travel, but most users will find it a solid middle ground. One practical strength that often goes unnoticed until you actually use the piano is the built-in song library. The YDP143R ships with 50 classic piano songs stored in its internal memory, ranging from simple folk tunes to more complex pieces. This feature is a boon for beginners who need a structured way to practice repertoire without hunting for sheet music online. You can select a song, hit, learn, and the piano lights up the keys in real time, guiding you through each phrase. It's essentially a built-in teaching aid that saves time and keeps practice sessions focused. I used it during a rainy weekend and found that it kept my daughter engaged for longer than any metronome or backing track could. Speaking of backing tracks, the console.